Chimere is a distant planet. It is defined by waves of life brought from Earth and set free to evolve independently in this new context. The indigenous life of the planet, swarms of microbes called magic by the people who live there, are what harvest Earth organisms and make copies on Chimere. As the asteroid which concluded the Mesozoic never struck Chimere, dinosaurs remain the dominant terrestrial megafauna.
A strange beast lurks in the forests, on the fringes of settlements in the known world. At first glance, they might be mistaken for an odd panther or bear, but it doesn't take long for these superficial similarities to fade from an uncanny cat to the strangest of creatures. Flat feet, comfort standing on their hind legs, clawed opposable thumbs, broad torsos and flexible shoulders, cubs carried in a pouch, a shearing cleaver of a premolar behind each rodent-like incisor. Both the Great Library and Assembly assumed they were just particularly common wild demons, or a relic homunculus made by the first children, but especially once fossil relatives were discovered on Earth, it became clear these were hardly demons. They were entirely natural animals. The marsupial lion, Thylacoleo. On Earth, this relative of wombats and koalas was one of Australia's more formidable carnivores. Throughout the Pliocene, they increased in size, culminating in the Pleistocene species Thylacoleo carnifex, which could weigh as much as 130 kilos. Comparable in size to a jaguar. The Pleistocene harvest, 1.5 million years ago, was the longest and most widespread in recent Chimeran history. This was at the end of a long era of stability called the Anchored Period. Normally, a harvest will be a fairly localized event as a region goes through a minor extinction. The end of the Anchored Period was on a much larger scale. Not only did many species become endangered or extinct, it spanned both Nicar, Arvel, and Picardia. The entire territory of the portal was impacted. Not only did it span such territory in Chimere, it also covered a lot of ground on Earth, likely in an effort to supplement such a wide range of habitats as forests, mountains, prairies, and wetlands, from the tropics to temperate climates. This took its harvest throughout much of East Asia, as far north as Mongolia, and south along a lot of tropical coasts. Oftentimes, harvested animals make extinctions for which they are collected to supplement worse. Animals that might have just become endangered go extinct due to increased competition hitting them when they're down. Perhaps partly due to hunting impact of Homo erectus, the first humans of Chimere, this harvest persisted and expanded beyond what is suspected for a typical harvest. It must be said that harvest dates and times are very hard to pin down, especially further back in time, since it's all based on very fragmentary fossil records. But from the few harvests well understood throughout the Pleistocene, this was especially wide-spanning and long-lasting. More details can be learned about the harvest of Pleistocene Asia in this episode. A consequence of this expansion was harvesting further south into the continent of Sahul, or what is today Australia and many of its neighboring islands. It was from this harvest that Thylacoleo was introduced to Chimere. On Earth, the Pleistocene Thylacoleo carnifex had likely just evolved, and it was probably a bit smaller on average than the late Pleistocene counterparts with which we are more familiar. However, they were still extremely powerful predators, and being a bit smaller and more flexible likely was to their benefit. Their bite was more powerful than the cat of the same size, and with a distinct configuration of teeth, where incisors could pierce the throat or the premolars could cut it, their kills were a lot quicker than a cat in the same position. While a lion or leopard may take 15 minutes to suffocate prey, it is thought Thylacoleo could get the job done in under a minute. Despite a rapid turnover that occurred in Chimere, where the cooler climate resulted in a rise in grasslands and a turn more familiar cursorial herbivores like deer and horses had a lot of success, there was still an abundance of slower, more powerful prey that had dominated during the anchored period. Even so, it seems Thylacoleo initially struggled. They are slow and ponderous compared to a big cat of the same size, and while stronger, not as agile. Not ideal when hunting prey with superior agility, speed, and endurance. As Chimere became more humid and warmed, however, prompting more forests to return, it was more robust browsers which increased in abundance. A predator specialized in these found equal success. While the diprotodonts and robust kangaroos that Thylacoleo specialized in back in Australia were not particularly successful, there was a new prey base of staggering abundance without much in the way of specialized predators. Ground sloths. During the anchored period, the most dominant sloth clade had been the megatheres. These were often quite large. Mylodont sloths, especially the burrowing taxa, were mostly smaller. However, mylodonts generally rose to dominance in the aftermath of the anchored period. As this clade saw members grow larger and more abundant, so too did their new specialist predators. Big cats often struggle with mylodont sloths in Chimere. Species like tiger and lion that like to suffocate prey find the claws of sloth a reliable defense against this type of assault, and their armored neck means that a bite to the back is harder to land. Thylacoleo has long arms with powerful paws and an opposable thumb. The arms strike hard and paws close in a powerful grip that employs all protractable claws in a formidable grip quite far from the body. This reach and power means that they can often outmaneuver and grapple around the claws of a sloth. A more powerful bite than a cat of the same size, and landing a killing blow much quicker, means that they could execute a sloth before too much damage could be done with claws in retaliation. If that failed, they could then maneuver around and behind to bite through an armored neck where claws would struggle to make purchase. Most predators can only attack sloths while they're out feeding or traveling. With these methods, Thylacoleo could even raid a sloth burrow. Such an abundant food source with predators that could only periodically compete with them was a tremendous advantage, and Thylacoleo thrived alongside this new food source as mylodont sloths erupted across the known world. Burrowing thescelosaurs are also a viable prey source without much in the way of specialized competition. By modern times, mylodonts are often among the most abundant prey species in this size range, alongside thescelosaurs, elasmarians, and deer. Big cats and cockatrice favor deer and elasmarians, while Thylacoleo enjoys fairly exclusive access in many regions to sloths, at least while in their dens. On Earth, Thylacoleo seems to have favored opening the rib cage of prey. Despite such powerful jaws, it seems they were fairly selective eaters when they had the chance, targeting organs. This is still seen in pouch lions of Chimere. However, they can't often reliably feed on the ground, as hyenas are on the prowl at night and cockatrice and terror birds during the day. Thankfully, pouch lions hunt in sloth dens, not only get a large meal that they can take their time processing, the prey has also built a formidable defense that the Marsupial can then use to defend itself and its kills. Under these conditions, they can target the organs and take their time with other meat over a subsequent few days of feeding. Once they leave, smaller scavengers will enter the tunnel for their share. As these are not carcasses out in the open, it sports a different scavenger guild than a cockatrice or hyena kill. Mustelids, very young theropods like centaur, and hyenas are the greatest benefactors from Thylacoleo kills. The bite of tusked species and claws of all can be sufficient defense, and of course the strength of these excavators means they can sometimes kill their intruders by crushing the marsupial against a wall. Often they strike from a thicket or even drop from a tree. Thylacoleo is surprisingly resilient to fall damage. Falling on prey is fast and makes their already powerful blows hit even harder. This also makes up for their general slow speed. When Thylacoleo do kill prey above ground, they have to be a lot more careful. In these cases, they usually drag it to some cover, then rip open and pack in as many organs as they can before cockatrice and terror birds arrive. Sometimes they will even carry a carcass into a tree. This can help, especially if they just drop from a tree, but they are slower than leopards. When trying to evade incoming threats, every half-second matters. And like leopards, they will often abandon a kill rather than guard it. While they are formidable fighters with astonishing strength, they have very little endurance. Best to scramble off and retreat to a higher ground or burrow than to risk injury that could make future hunting less successful. In Chimere, pouch lions are far from apex predators. Perhaps because they're slower than panthers and other big cats, they can easily be caught by terror birds. Even a large Arvelif pouch lion is a fairly easy kill for an adult fireback. Perhaps because of this, they are more strictly nocturnal than the leopards and lions with whom they share the dense forests. Also, these terror birds aren't particularly abundant in closed forests, another reason to stick where there's abundant cover. Big cats are famously flexible animals. While individuals often specialized, on a species level they are quite generalist. It is likely a key to their survival in the modern context of how impoverished the environment has become between the harsh and wildly fluctuating climate of the late Pleistocene and the staggering impact of modern humans on both the climate and local ecology here on Earth. This does not seem to be the case for Thylacoleo. While leopards and chimere can often turn to rabbits and even rodents for sustenance, the pouch lion is extremely specialized in taking down large, powerful prey. Thanks to them, such prey is currently in extreme abundance in the known world, so they don't have much conservation concern. In times of pressure, however, it seems they are prone to regional extinction. The smaller Nicari species, Thylacoleo arctopiptus, was once found in Arvel, but has since gone extinct. Leopards have been proposed as the cause, since the extinction roughly coincided with leopards coming to northern Arvel, though it's likely the leopards filled a vacancy with another cause. It's possible common hyenas were the culprit, but they're not particularly abundant in Arvel, and Thylacoleo arctopiptus cohabitates with them just fine in Nicar, where hyenas are more abundant. Lions may well have contributed to their initial reduction and forced them into a corner, which leopards then took them out of. It could be a matter of disease or extinction of a sloth that they were particularly specialized in. At the end of the day, the fossil record rarely offers clear explanations for who succeeds and who does not. In addition to the morphological specializations limiting their flexibility to large game, it must be said that, compared to big cats, Thylacoleo is not particularly intelligent. While big cats can learn and reliably exploit weaknesses in a wide range of prey, letting them specialize in whatever is locally abundant, Thylacoleo does not. They must have a degree of flexibility when they were first introduced to Chimere, as they were able to pivot from diprotodonts and kangaroos to mylodonts as the ecosystem stabilized and sloth emerged as the highly abundant food source with minimal competition. But now that they've gotten larger and more specialized, they seem quite locked in. Lesser pouch lions seem to be more versatile, but from what has been observed and documented, it seems they are more flexible out of necessity and target whatever plausible prey moves into range, not actively experimenting with potential prey and developing personal specialty, which is what we see in panthers. There are 3 species of Thylacoleo in Chimere today. The drop bear, Delani, or lesser Nicari pouch lion, Thylacoleo arctopiptus, the Telmede, or greater Nicari pouch lion, Thylacoleo thylarctos, and the enormous Arvellus species, Thylacoleo phonocnus. All are descended from Thylacoleo harvested 1.5 million years ago. This ancestor might be Thylacoleo carnifex, though the assembly often distinguishes it as Thylacoleo antecessor, since the carnifex remains from the later Pleistocene, and the known remains of this species in Chimere are a bit smaller than known carnifex specimens we have from later in the Pleistocene. Some choose to settle for Thylacoleo carnifex antecessor. While Thylacoleo antecessor was replicated on both continents, it seems they quickly went extinct in Nicar. And it was only once the planet began to recover that they spread from Arvel to Nicar and Picardia, though the picardian species will be addressed further on in the episode. The drop bear, or lesser Nicari pouch lion, is most widespread species. It seems they once were also found in Arvel, but are now restricted to Nicar. This is the most similar to their ancestor. Males tend to be slightly larger, averaging around 100 kilos, while females normally vary between 80 and 90. As their ancestor likely did due to pressures from crocodilians and giant lizards underfoot, the drop bear often caches their kills in trees. They aren't as powerful as the other species, but can still punch above their weight class, and are restricted to larger, slower prey. It is they who are most dangerous to people, as being smaller and more versatile means they are more likely to explore prey opportunities near settlements. They are still around the weight of a lot of grown men and are well known to overpower people of the same size. Anecdotal claims of their bite being able to cut through iron chainmail are unverified, but considering the power at their disposal, the assembly hasn't entirely ruled out this claim. They can be very aggressive animals, though this is likely a consequence of them being fairly slow and having no choice but to fight humans who encounter them, rather than seeking out conflict. Their fur, with a striking black lateral stripe, belly fur ranging from cream to a gorgeous golden hue, and a reddish-brown back, with very soft fur due to this species often bathing in sand, means they are often sought after by hunters. A dangerous target to be sure, but they are slow enough that an archer can usually land a kill if they're a good shot. Hounds are usually advised against being taken on these hunts, as they can easily be killed by a paw swipe if they get too close. A drop bear is the antagonist of the second story in my first anthology. In this story, titled Fire in the Shadows, a local boy is taken from the wall of the imperial frontier city of Zardin. The daughter of the imperial magistrate and her friend hire Kaldin, a foreign truffle forager and owner of a local trading post, to help track and rescue the boy. They quickly track him to the den of a female pouch lion. The Marsupial was injured and lost her joey in killing the Wojun sow who dug the burrow. The characters find the missing boy in the den, suspecting the pouch lion took him in and imprinted upon him, following the loss of her own child. Also on this continent is the Telmede, or Greater Nicari pouch lion. Most Thylacoleo on Earth and Chimere retained tiny versions of a lot of their teeth, with their main incisors and bolt-cutter premolars taking up most of the tooth row. The Telmede pouch lion has lost all teeth except these incisors and premolars in most specimens, maximizing efficiency and making them the most derived species within this genus. They are also massive, with males often weighing 150 kilos and the largest pushing 200. While they share territory with the drop bear, seeing the two side by side makes it quite clear that they are different animals. The Telmeid pouch lion mostly are found in alpine forests of the Crescent Peninsula, though they do range in the Crescent up to the adjacent mountain ranges. Some scholars think this animal is actually descended from the first Thylacoleo antecessor placed in Nikar, supported by some genetic studies placing the lesser species as closer to the Arvelith pouch lion, but not all studies come to this conclusion, so it remains uncertain. While they do share territory with mountain hyenas, they tend to favor more forested areas. As there are many titans in these woods, only the occasional wandering Edotan or Modotan coming for the summer, the forests are often quite dense, so the cursorial adaptations of hyenas, common cockatrice, and Homotherium aren't particularly advantageous. And these Centaur and terror birds are also quite rare, especially in the past few thousand years, as Telmeid civilization has focused on extirpating these animals from the Crescent. Generally speaking, Thylacoleo is a top-order carnivore of this region, and the northern wall makes regular passage more difficult for a lot of animals. The Telmeid pouch lion generally has reliable access to toxodonts, thescelosaurs, and sloths, leaving leopards and white cockatrice to focus on elasmarians or takin and other more cursorial ungulates. They aren't as likely to cache their kills in trees as their smaller kin, mostly because they're large enough to defend from most competitors. They are extremely talented, if slow climbers, so leopards in their area usually don't bother with tree caching either, as the leopard can't reliably defend a kill, and no matter how high or well they climb, the sure and steady Thylacoleo can always climb better thanks to more flexible arms and an opposable thumb on each hand. The largest species of Thylacoleo is the Arvelith sloth killer Thylacoleo phonoconus. They can reach 300 kilograms in their biggest males, though 250 is more common. They are the heavy hitters within an already heavyweight genus, known to kill sloths at more than triple their size. They are too slow and ponderous to reliably cache prey in trees, instead taking over the dens of their most recent meal. While sloths are of course their favored prey, they will tackle thescelosaurs, young toxodonts, and other slow and large game up to a ton or more in size. Not only are they the largest species of Thylacoleo, their bite is also proportionally powerful for their size, and they've been recorded chewing through even bone armor of their prey. The picardian species of Thylacoleo is usually considered to have been a subspecies of Thylacoleo phonoconus, though some designate them as their own species. In the highlands, fossils suggest they may have reached a staggering 350 kilograms. They hunted both Picardian black sloth, the Picardian gopher and river sloths, and possibly even sow and cubs of the Picardian cave sloth, the Rokelkan. It was this specialization that the abundant burrowing sloths of Picardia that was their initial success and eventual undoing. Around 15,000 years ago, a race of diminutive Neotenic humans appear rather suddenly in the archaeological record of Picardia's highlands. They would later be known as the first children. Their origins are shrouded in mystery, though most think they lived on an island that was destroyed, likely by volcanic activity. When they came to Picardia, it was as refugees. Contact with the Picardian in the lowlands seems to have pushed them into the hills and mountains to the west. The first children came to the known world, having already domesticated magic. In Picardia, they seem to have innovated many uses for this ability. Mind control magic has at least been attested to by Picardian histories. It was likely through this magic that they began to domesticate many animals in the region to make themselves safer. One of these was the Picardian Thylacoleo. With enthralled pouch lions, they were able to take over and defend sloth dens. These dens became their new stronghold. While they may have used magic to make some homunculi back on their homeland, this act of creation seems to have blossomed in Picardia. Not only did they have Thylacoleo guards, they also created warriors by growing animal aspects on local Chimerans and the picardian descendants of Homo erectus. Thylacoleo was a popular aspect of these early homunculi. Between domestication and hunting to collect animals to create homunculi, which in these early years seems to have been a much more expensive and inefficient process demanding many specimens per demon, it seems the wild picardian Thylacoleo was hunted to extinction, perhaps in only a few centuries. When the first children left Picardia to make a new home in Qajar, they took their homunculi and domesticated Thylacoleo with them. Both likely contributed to the culling and genocide of Qajar's native fauna and peoples to make the region secure for the first children's new civilization. Throughout the First Age, there was a general trend in favor of hyenas over Thylacoleo, and the discovery of the iron-toothed multituberculates of Kairul also didn't help. By the Second Age, Thylacoleo was still used in homunculi, but it seems more common in religious iconography and temple guards than more common application, which seems to have favored komatu and hyenas. Scholars debate the reason for this transition, but as there are very few accounts from the time and none confidently translated, it's a debate with little confidence, as are most things regarding this ancient civilization. Though domesticated Thylacoleo were at least kept throughout the Second Age and the Third, it seems likely that this animal's appearance in homunculi, it was mostly a matter of the animal being sacred and connected to the most prominent religion, not in widespread practical application. An animal which likely was sacred for their aid in helping them survive as refugees and in claiming new homeland, but many favored other animals in later centuries. When the first children disappeared, their domesticated Thylacoleo seemed on the brink of extinction. Some Maku, however, continued practicing their own interpretation of the old religion, and some of the domesticated animals may have been cared for in these temples. As the age of demons transitioned to the age of witches, the Maku were driven from Qajar, and with them the last of the picardian Thylacoleo of the known world. Maku still use these formidable beasts in warfare, prizing them both for their faith and the formidable power they possess, though the conventionally domesticated komatu of the indigenous Kairulans they now live with are often favored. The multituberculates require less food, are far more intelligent, easier to train, and have a superior social instinct and coordination. However, in single combat, there's not much that can challenge these enormous marsupials, and combining this with their religious significance means that they are often worth the tremendous amount of meat required for upkeep. Though they have many names in Chimeran languages, and of course that of the Maku, they were also called barghest by the assembly naturalists who first encountered them. The barghest is a black ghost dog with oversized teeth and claws in English folklore. Chimeran barghest are not always black, but that was by far the most common pelt color noted by the naturalist who first encountered them. And of course the oversized teeth and claws are an understatement. Being a relic of an extinct people, there's also a poetic argument for these being named after a ghost dog. Though big cats certainly outnumber them in population and species diversity, Thylacoleo has held fast and strong in both continents of the known world. They are heavy hitters in a mammal-predator guild and are revered and feared by local peoples. In a world so abundant with sloths, the success of a specialized predator should come as no surprise. Cheers to Austin at the Paleo Zookeeper Association for sponsoring this episode. As one might guess, given that they were featured in the second story I ever published, this animal has long been a part of Chimere. I believe they were first included as warhounds in a very early draft of the Lost Hellfighter, but they may have appeared in earlier sketches. Taking from his experience working at a zoo and his passion for paleontology and wildlife, Austin's channel, the Paleo Zookeeper Association, has a lot of informative and engaging episodes on this hypothetical care and keeping of extinct animals. I've worked with Austin to create a lot of art for his channel. Most recently, he's done several dinosaur episodes, but there's also plenty for mammal enthusiasts to enjoy. It's been a blast, and I've been blown away by his creativity. If you liked this episode and its subject, I definitely suggest you keep an eye on Paleo Zookeeper Association. Thanks again to Austin, to my Patreon patrons for your support, and thank you so much for watching. Next month, we will learn about the Great Library, the assembly both on Earth and Chimere, and the field work of these two organizations in the known world and beyond. Cheers, folks!